Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council. Mayor Teresa Tomlinson. City Manager Isaiah Hughley. Pop Barnes, District 1. Glenn Davis, District 2. Bruce Huff, District 3. Evelyn Turner Pugh, Mayor Pro Tem and District 4. Mike Baker, District 5. Gary Allen, District 6. Mimi Woodson, District 7. Tom Buck, District 8. Judy Thomas, Post 9 at-large counselor. Skip Henderson, Post 10 at-large counselor. Tiny Washington, Clerk of Council. And City Attorney, Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Meeting of the Columbus City Council. I warn you ahead of time, we are having some computer problems, but we're going to muddle through the old-fashioned way. So we've got a lot of folks here with some important business, and we want to go ahead and get down to it. But first, we're going to start off, as we always do, with an invocation. And we're so pleased to have Reverend Adrian Chester with the Greater Bellwood Baptist Church here this morning, who's going to start us off with an invocation in his faith tradition. And I'd ask if you turn on the podium mic, please. Oh, good. Thank you.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we come now thanking you for life. And we thank you for these public servants who have offered themselves to be a voice for the voiceless. And God, as we deliberate decisions for this city, we pray that your Spirit abide within us and through us. God, teach us to put aside our self-interest. And God, we ask that you teach us how to do your will, even through public service. We ask that you bless this community, that God, even with violence and all types of crime, God, we ask that you move upon the hearts of the citizens of Columbus, that we can be a city of love and of peace. It's in the name of Jesus we do pray, and we all said, amen.
Amen. Reverend Chester, thank you so much. You recently celebrated an anniversary at your church.
Yes, ma'am.
What was that? How many years?
Our 139th church anniversary, and also the pastoral installation of myself as the 17th pastor and the youngest pastor of the Greater Bellwood Baptist Church.
Well, we are so grateful to have Greater Bellwood Baptist Church in this community, and so grateful you chose to come back to Columbus. And I'm sorry I missed that anniversary. I unfortunately had already scheduled an event I had to attend, but I hope you all will invite us back so we can come and worship with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so very much. Good to see you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and so today we have Allen Elementary School, who's going to help lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And you all can come forward, come onto the carpet here. They've got a microphone for you. And as they assemble, I'm going to ask you all to stand. And they're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right, excellent job. Let's give them a round of applause. And we want to make sure that we get to know each of you, so we'd like for you to state your name and tell us what grade you're in.
My name is Tamia Kane, and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Madison Dixon, and I am in 5th grade.
My name is Josiah Gutowski, and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Jason Chin, and I'm from 5th grade.
My name is Santiago Garcia, and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Bradley Lehman, and I am in 5th grade.
My name is Vincent Yang, and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Brianna Agby, and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Stephanie Tidwell, and I'm in the 5th grade.
My name is Kathy Agler, and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Kevin Pacheco, and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Malachi Walker, and I'm in 5th grade.
Great. Please do introduce yourselves.
My name is Kathy Houston, and I'm the assistant principal at Allen.
My name is Kevin Johnson, and I'm a student teacher at Allen from Troy University.
Well, it is so good to have you all here. I know you're proud of these young people, and so glad you came to help to start us out this morning. So you all go on and have a good day. study hard, and someday you'll be up here leading this community, and we can't wait for that. So thank you so very much. Let's see, Counselor Thomas has something. If you would turn on Counselor Thomas's mic, please, until we can get the system rebooted.
Before they leave, I hope you boys and girls know that Allen Elementary School holds a very special place in Columbus because it was named after former Mayor J.R. Allen, who was the first mayor of the consolidated government in Columbus. And so those who attend Allen Elementary have a real legacy and a real connection with our council. I'm sorry that Councilor Allen is not here this morning, who is the mayor's son. So welcome again, and carry on that good work at Allen Elementary. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you all. Let's give them another round of applause. All right. Let's see here. Next, we're going to have a public hearing. We are welcoming our partners, the Columbus Waterworks. They are here today to speak about the 2016 rate, and this is a required public hearing. So welcome. So glad to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you for having us, Madam Mayor, members of City Council. We appreciate the time on your agenda. We know you have a busy agenda, so we'll try to keep it short and sweet. Yesterday afternoon, the Board of Water Commissioners approved us coming down and making this presentation to you as part of a public forum. So any comments we receive today or through the rest of the month, we will take back to our board December 14th, and at that time they would take action on the proposed rate increase. So as you may recall, since 2002, we have been doing a 5-year rolling financial analysis of the needs for Columbus Waterworks. We started this 2002, so we do an annual evaluation of our cost, revenue, and then we make projections forward to see what our needs are. Some things that continue to drive our cost are the consent order we've been under with EPD for some period of time. That will conclude in 2017. We're doing well with that. We're meeting all the compliance requirements of that consent order. And for the council's and the public's information, Fort Benning expenses and revenue are completely independent of our ratepayers in Columbus. So costs and expenses at Fort Benning are borne through that contract. We have, for a number of years, been doing a lot of coordinated planning. We do facility master plans every 5 years. We have an IT master plan. We have an asset management plan. We have an energy gap analysis. We have strategic planning, and we have this rolling financial plan. All of those plans come together to help us formulate a capital improvement plan. So it's very comprehensive planning that we do. And that's what we're bringing today. It's a big driver in our financial needs. And the biggest component of that is reinvestment in our infrastructure. As you may know, we've got a lot of old infrastructure in Columbus. We have distribution pipes that have been installed in the late 1800s that are still in service. So we have a lot of old infrastructure. Our water plant was constructed in the early 1900s, so things are old, but we can't let them wear out. We have to keep renewing and reinvesting in it, and that is a big cost in our business model. Some of the things that drive us in reinvesting in our infrastructure are regulatory requirements. Those are relatively minor in what we're looking at for the next bond issue. The biggest driver is just renewal and replacement of the aging infrastructure. We've got to maintain our infrastructure so we don't see our level of service diminish or get out of compliance because we let infrastructure fail. Also, we have a component of risk mitigation that's also part of our infrastructure investment. Another highlight for this year is we did successfully go through our monthly read and billing conversion. We had a different approach for a lot of years, so we were able to go through that smoothly without a lot of disruption to our customers. So we're proud of that. And our rates continue to be the lowest in the Southeast. As you can see from this graph, Columbus Columbus Waterworks here in the white. Phoenix City is slightly lower than us, and this is at the residential average of 8 CCF. It used to be we'd look at a 10 CCF. That was the average residential monthly consumption, but because people have more efficient water plumbing fixtures and they're more efficient and conscious of their water use, the per capita consumption is dropped over time, so that's why we're looking at an average that is now lower than what it used to be. Some of the things we're proud of, we continue to win a lot of awards at Columbus Waterworks. Since July of 2014, we've won 30 awards. One of them that we're particularly proud of is the AMWA Award. There were 9 water utilities across the country that won this award. It is for sustainable water utility management. It takes a pretty comprehensive look at environmental impacts, social impacts, financial impacts, just to make sure the utility is addressing all of those things as they're looking forward to meet the needs of the environment, the customers, and the financial needs. And we also continue to win finance reporting awards, and also this year we won for the first time in all 3 categories that we could compete in for water treatment. We won the top state awards there for our North Columbus Water Treatment Plant, our Fort Benning Water Treatment Plant, and then one at the wells, Fort Benning, so we're very proud of that. This is just a little glimpse of some of our aging infrastructure. A lot of our upcoming capital needs are at the South Columbus Water Resource Facility, and these are pictures of that facility. The upper left, you'll see 2 boilers that we use to heat the digestion process. Those boilers are old and worn out. They'll be replaced. The top center is our chlorine disinfection system. It is a pressurized disinfection system. We're converting that over to a vacuum system that will be a safer system, and it will require that this facility is enclosed and have a scrubber. So it'll be both safer for our employees and for the area around in case there happened to be a chlorine leak. So this is a risk mitigation and a regulatory requirement here. To the upper right, you see we have 2 floating covered digester roofs that have been installed since the mid-70s. We're going to replace these with fixed cover roofs. These are old and worn out. The lower left there, this is our digester head house. You can see that maze of piping. We're putting in climate control in there to avoid corrosion in this piping and make it more friendly, more conducive to employees working in there. This place, the HVAC system has not worked properly in a while, so we'll improve that. Lower bottom right, this is one of 4 blowers that we use to force air into the primary treatment process to give air to the biological process. These are very big blowers. They're probably 35 plus years old. They're at the end of their service life. We cannot run these to failure. If they fail, then we get out of compliance and we probably begin to impact the river. So we can't wait for that to happen. We have to be proactive. And this is our current bond issue, a $25 million bond issue. You can see how the capital investment is spread across the South Columbus Water Resource Facility, the North Columbus Water Resource Facility, our sewer collection system, our water distribution system, and miscellaneous. And that miscellaneous includes primarily a upgrade to our customer information system that we've been using since 1988. We pretty much wrung the useful life out of that IT system. So we hope to have this $25 million bond issue pretty much wrapped up by the end of FY16, and that'll allow us to roll into the next one and be efficient in managing that one. And this is what is proposed in that next bond issue. It's a $50 million bond issue. About $10 million of that goes to our North Columbus Water Treatment Facility, and the biggest part of it goes to our wastewater treatment facility in South Columbus. Is about $22 million. Sanitary collection system about $5 million, water distribution about $5 million, miscellaneous $6.6 million. A big part of that is a new lab Our lab dates back to the late 1980s, and the demand for our lab to do more and more water quality analysis has grown. Our employees are just working on top of each other, and a lot of the space HVAC systems are just at the end of their useful life, so we need to make an upgrade and put in a new lab. And this picture here is another one of the South Columbus Water Resource Facility. This is the influent pump station. This is a very large concrete structure. And you can see where sulfuric acid is beginning to eat through the concrete into the reinforcing steel. This is a structure we cannot let run to failure. If it does, we would immediately be into a permit violation, and we would be expending tens of millions of dollars trying to repair this in a failure mode. So what we're proposing to do is come in with a coating system on this. It is resistant to sulfuric acid, so that this will extend the life of this for a considerable period of time. This is a little history of our recent rate increases. You can see on the top line there going across the road that the national average for water and sewer utility increases has been about 6.5% a year. Our projections are on the next line. In 2012, we were projecting a 3.9% increase is what we had been doing the years prior to 2012. But you can see what we actually implemented in 2012 was a 0% increase, and that the subsequent years we had to bump it up to be able to fund our capital needs. So over time, you can see in 2013, 14, 15, they were pretty close to that 4.95% increase. What we're proposing this year gets us back down close to where we were before we had the zero increase. So we're continuing to try to manage our costs as well as we can, but we can't do that to the point where we do not reinvest in our infrastructure. So that's really a big driver in our proposed rate increase is reinvestment in our infrastructure. So you can see the 5-year average over that period of time has been a 3.7% increase as compared to the national average during that time of 6.5. So we're trying to be very cost efficient, understanding that our customers, nobody likes rate increases, but we also understand that they wouldn't like to see our level of service fail either. So with that, I will hand the clicker over to John Raftelis. He's been doing he's with Raftelis Financial. John Davis, I said, I'm about to put him in ownership of the company here, I think. But he's been doing our financial analysis for a number of years, so I'll pass it on. He'll give you a little comments on his rate analysis and the recommendations that we're bringing forward.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, Mayor and Council. I'm going to do a few things just for you today. One is a quick recap of some of the financial results from the prior fiscal year. Then we want to extend that look forward again through our 5-year average and look at some of our projections going forward. And finally close with the rate recommendations, what we feel is necessary to meet the needs of the system going forward at the end. So the financial planning results from the last fiscal year, our revenues came in slightly below projections. That was due in part to kind of the third bullet here, a slight reduction in water demand versus projections. We were able to meet that by adjusting the expenses down a little bit, so expenses came in a little below projections as well to allow us to meet the overall needs of the year. So there is a projected rate increase for this year, as Steve mentioned. The biggest things driving that are the capital program, and Steve mentioned a lot of the projects that are necessary for the efficient operation and the sustainability of the water utility. They kind of fall into several categories, and infrastructure renewal and replacement is a big piece of that. We also have a bit of an impact from declining per capita usage. Steve had mentioned as well that we used to use a 10 CCF as an average residential customer. That number has fallen to 8 or just a little bit below. So given low flow fixtures and conservation messages, the citizens of Columbus are really doing a good job with conservation there. So looking ahead at the 5-year rate plan, we had been on a trajectory of something slightly less than 5%. I'd like to point out that each year we don't start with what we had projected for a rate increase. We start with zero. We build up the costs, both the operating and the capital costs that are needed to operate the utility going forward and to maintain the level of service that the customers expect. And then we see what type of rate adjustment is necessary to meet that level of service and the cost of that level of service. What we found this year is that the projected rate increase could be lowered from what we had been thinking and what we had been projecting. And in fact, we're at something slightly less than 4% versus the 4.95% that we had shared last year. So this is the part where we actually look at the rates themselves, what they are and what they would be adjusted to under this new plan. The first slide here are the water base charges. These are scaled up by meter size. You see the adjustments here. The water volumetric charges, and we have an inclining block structure for residential customers. Again, this incentivizes conservation of the resource. And for industrial customers, we have a declining block, which recognizes the lower marginal cost of their use of water. Our wastewater and combined sewer overflow charges are listed here, both base charges and volumetric charges. And finally, we have talk to you about the percentage increase, which is kind of a blended impact across the customer base. This really takes an average customer bill and shows you what the projected increase means in dollar terms. Currently here in 2015, we have an average customer paying a bill of $47.96. And under these proposed increases, that monthly bill would go to a total of $50.01, which is an increase of about $2.05 per month. In combination with the rate increases, we always like to share that the Waterworks works with the City of Columbus in an affordability program for qualifying customers. The city offers a reduced fee for garbage collection, and the Waterworks piggybacks on that by offering a credit of $4.50 against a customer bill for qualifying customers on a monthly basis. So Steve had showed you the comparison to regional utilities here, and this factors in the increase that we just talked about, and it still puts Columbus at next to the bottom of regional utilities for utilities offering similar services. The bottom two, Harris and Talbot County, just offer water service for that amount. No sewer is included. We'd like to close with just a couple of observations and conclusions. We are maintaining and actually bettering the projections that we had of rate increases going forward. As Steve pointed out, the rate increases that we're realizing are significantly lower than what we see as a national average, and well within what we see again with peer utilities in the region. The focus of the Waterworks again is that we can't reduce our level of service. We have to be available 24/7, 365. And in doing that, we have to be very proactive with some of our infrastructure reinvestment, and that's really one of the keys driving the capital campaign that Steve talked about. The rate increase that we have proposed here provides the ability to include a $50 million revenue bond issue in 2016 to continue that program. So with that, I think we can answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Any questions? And I do not believe this is an item for council's action. Isn't that right, Steve? This is just an information update and a public hearing. Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you all being here this morning.
If I could take liberty to recognize one employee, this will be his last time coming before council for any proposed rate increases, but Emery Blunt, after 55 years of service with Columbus Waterworks, is going to, for some reason, just give it up in January. I don't understand it.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And Emery, thank you for your tremendous service to this community. We wish you well in your well-earned retirement. So, all right. Next, we have a limited scope audit of the cash collections and refunds at the Columbus Civic Center. And Mr. John Redmond, our internal auditor, is going to present this. We also have Civic Center Director Ross Horner with us today. Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Mayor, members of council, Manager, Mr. Attorney. It's good to be here with you again this morning for a report, and I think you'll like this report. It's actually one that's a pretty good report. Doesn't have a lot of problems. Earlier this year, Civic Center Director Ross Horner requested an internal audit, a limited scope of the cash collections and refunds that they do, and that was approved by the City Council on May the 12th of this year. And we began that audit. Actually, Joan Perrin, our former forensic auditor, performed the audit, and I'm going to be presenting it today in her stead. The Civic Center has policies and procedures for processing ticket sales and refunds, as would be expected. The box office manager reports the transaction data from the ticket master reports and daily balancing reports to Civic Center finance manager, and also to then the Civic Center finance manager prepares settlements with promoters and then reports the financial information to the city's finance department and the Civic Center management. Financial data is reported separately by event, so they can track the profitability or loss or whatever on each event, how well it's performed. Looking at it, the background, our financial data is reported separately for the events, including hockey, football, ice rink activities, events, concerts, and other performances. And there's a wide variety of things that go on at the Columbus Civic Center, as you know. It may be concerts, it may be sporting events, or it may be a county fair or something of that nature. Just a lot of different activities that go on. Okay. The Civic Center uses Ticketmaster system to track sales by payment type, ticket level, and cashier. Then the Ticketmaster reports provide the basis for the cash settlements with the promoters that bring in the events. The Civic Center finance manager uses Excel spreadsheets to capture information used for event, reconciliation, and cash settlements. The spreadsheets at that time lacked the necessary detail to balance it with the Ticketmaster reports at the detail level. This necessitated additional coordination of financial information with the box office management. Significant refunds, such as a concert cancellation, could overwhelm the normally daily operation and the available supply of cash for when there's a large number of cash sales. This is a very unique situation. It maybe happens once every year or two, but when we have an event that has largely sold out and many of the ticket sales were for cash or made by cash payments, it does overwhelm their cash bank, and so they have to then draw down an advance from the city's finance department in order to fund that with cash, because they refund in the same form as they take in the payments. And in the past, the way that worked was they draw down a cash bank and then they would hold it for an unspecified period of time, and they would make the refunds as the people came back to turn in the tickets, and then eventually that money, the remainder of the money, would then be redeposited into the city's bank account. That's not the best way of tracking it, so we made some recommendations there as to how we might handle that better. Of course, the scope of this audit was limited to the review of the ticket sales and refunds, and particularly to those on a cash basis and how reconciled out and then the cash management. The process, the auditor reviewed the process and the procedures in place for recording sales, cash, and refunds between the Civic Center and the Finance Department. They reviewed the procedure of posting sales to the deferred revenue account, and then reviewed the handling and reconciliation of the consigned ticket sales. Consigned ticket sales are when an outside vendor is going to take a block of tickets and sell them for us. Fort Benning is a good example, because when we have a lot of large events, a lot of times they will check out a block of tickets and then help us with the sales. The auditor reviewed the process and the fund tracking of refunds, reviewed the reconciliation of the Columbus Civic Center finance data with Ticketmaster report data, and reviewed the sampling of the event settlements, and evaluated the internal controls related to or embedded in each of the processes. The operations and focus was on the evaluation of current practices and the development of processes and procedures that would do a better job of handling these unique events with large cash refunds. It helped the ticket refunding due to event of cancellations for accounting for cash shortages and overage. They now track it by the individual cashiers at the box office, and accounting for consignment sales, and then accounting for the complimentary tickets. The existing process and procedures to facilitate accurate reporting and reconcile the Finance Department data with Ticketmaster needed to be strengthened. It was not previously detected due to infrequency and amounts below materiality thresholds. So this is not something that our external accountants necessarily would have ever noticed, because it's well below the threshold they'd be looking for. But those refunds were likely not an audit focus for them. The inadequacies only surface when an event canceled with significant cash sales of advanced tickets and refund process becomes more complex. And these things don't happen very often, but occasionally a performer may become ill just before a concert, or there may have to be a change in schedule. The last one we had that was of significance was at a time when we had a inclement weather event back in the winter a year or so ago. And you may recall we had ice and snow, and they had to cancel a concert. And Disney on Ice was scheduled to come in the very next day and set up. So they couldn't reschedule the concert for the next day, as they sometimes were able to do. So these things do happen. The recommendations is that the format was changed for data reporting of the financial data to the Finance Department of the Columbus Consolidated Government. Data reports are now balanced with Ticketmaster reports and include reporting of cash over and short, and refunding of tickets. This helps us to have better accountability for the work and the accuracy of each individual cashier. And additionally, reports are now balanced with Visa, MasterCard, and Discover daily totals as well, so they're not all the credit cards just lumped together. As I said, it changed the format. It's now including all that information associated with the event, including whereas prior reporting only tracked deferred revenue, which made reconciliations reports virtually impossible. Event accounting now also includes balancing ticket counts, and all revenue from the event is consolidated through deferred revenue accounts to facilitate recognition. How are we doing that? Okay. The recommendation was to implement procedures to track cash provided by the CCG Finance Department to Civic Center for refunding of tickets for canceled events. And so if an event was canceled and there was a significant number of tickets sold, then they could track this and know exactly how much they had refunded out of that cash bank, and then redeposit the other as a return of that advance. There were stringent controls that have now been implemented to track all funds received and reconciled to actual tickets refunded. And any funds that are not paid out from that money bank will be, after 30 days, will then return to the Consolidated Government Finance Department. And a customer policy has been posted informing the public of the cash refund policy. These were all implemented with cashier cash overage and shortage reporting. Previously, it only did it collectively for all cashiers on a given day, not by individuals. And overages and shortages are now recorded for each cashier. They changed the processing of the consignment tickets Before, they were not tracked through Ticketmaster, but were tracked outside of it in a bulk transaction on spreadsheets. Now they're processed through the Ticketmaster account, and it has the capability for tracking and reporting that information. Complimentary tickets, previously a file was maintained of copies of emails and ticket requests, but reconciliation to Ticketmaster reporting was not performed. Now all complimentary tickets, both those of the House and of the promoter, are now balanced with Ticketmaster reports for each event. And after careful review and consideration, the Civic Center management has accepted and adopted the changes recommended by the auditor. And so the findings and summaries were presented now to the Civic Center management for consideration. And they considered them and evaluated them, and they've all been implemented. Any questions regarding this particular audit? Turned out to be pretty straightforward once they got in there and got to it, and fortunately it was all adopted and implemented. So
It doesn't look like there's any questions at this point, but would Director Horner like to say anything? Good morning.
Good morning. I'd just like to thank John and Joan, who has departed now. When we went through the food and beverage...
Departed to another city.
Went to another city. He's probably going to talk to you about that later. But they, when we went through the food and beverage the transition, Joan and John helped us considerably. And as we were going through it, we realized that they're just basically internal experts for us. So we looked for the first opportunity to bring John and Joan back and look at different processes. And I just want to thank John for all the help, because this is really an efficiency thing for us. And if he had more time or more people, we'd bring him in again and have him look at other areas. So I just wanted to thank him.
Well, thank you all very much. We appreciate you being proactive. Ross and John, we appreciate your expertise as always. Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, I have one other item I need to bring up today. As Ross mentioned, Joan Perry, our forensic auditor, left in the middle of June. So I've been kind of flying solo since then. And obviously, the workload has not diminished, and we've been anxiously and actively pursuing finding a suitable replacement candidate. And I've worked with a committee of 3 excellent managers within the city in doing that, and we have now found 2 very qualified candidates, and we hope to be able to hire one of them in the near future. But we come back to the same issue that we had previously of compensation. This particular position is a grade 21, and normally we try to hire down in steps A through C. In order to bring in either one of these candidates, we're going to have to do as we did with Joan. We're going to have to go to a step L, and that is a starting salary of $65,450.71. These 2 candidates are both making right at that number at the present time, and they're much younger than Joan or than I am. So we need to get someone that's good in here, that has the skills, that can do what needs to be done, because, as Ross mentioned, the forensic element of the audit that was done with the food and beverage changeover saved the city hundreds of thousands of dollars from what the vendor wanted. And we were able to pin that number down to exactly what it was, and we backed them down from going to court, and they settled. And that's important, because it was a substantial savings. We worked with the attorneys on that, both the city attorneys and an outside attorney that assisted us with that contract matter. But there's no doubt that that information was most critical in that settlement. So today I need your approval to bring in someone at a level beyond step C. It needs to be step L.
Okay, it's a motion and second. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, I would add that the money is in the budget, because that's the level that was budgeted.
It was already budgeted at that rate for that position.
You don't have to find any money. It's just a matter of approving it.
Right. Okay, good. All right, well, there being no further discussion, all those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
And we have the minutes of our September 22nd council meeting and September 29th work session. We've got a motion and a second that they be received. Are there any additions, edits of any sort? Seeing that there's none, all those in favor, please state aye. Okay, and we will move then into the city attorney's agenda. Mr. Fay.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got a few first reading hearings to go through. The first one up is a text amendment change to the UDO. This would create a new recreational establishment category for use in general commercial, light manufacturing, and mill restoration. This would allow batting cages, indoor tennis centers, etc. in these zoning districts, and it's recommended for approval. Planning staff is here if we've got any questions, or see if anybody else wants to be heard. Anybody in the audience want to be heard? All right, any other questions?
Doesn't appear so
All
this
right,
time.
Councilor Henderson, that will be voted on in next week at the special call meeting. Is that a 5:30 meeting, Ms. Washington? Yes. Okay. All right, second item is property at 1301 6th Avenue. This is a rezoning from light manufacturing to general commercial. Proposed use is retail. Mr. Smallman's here. This is recommended for approval. Is there anybody opposed to this in the audience? Okay, any questions from council?
Does not appear so at this time.
All right, Mr. Smallman, we appreciate you being here. We'll vote 5:30 next week. Next item is the closeout budget amendment for FY 2015. It's the annual closeout. Ms. Hodge is here if there are any questions. Anybody in the audience want to be heard? Now's the time to speak up. Going to close out the FY15 year with a vote on this next week, Mayor.
Okay. Is there going to be a presentation of any sort? Or is that an update? I thought there was going to be a presentation associated with this. Okay, and I don't mean to give us extra work here. Is it the next item that there's going to be a report on? I know there were some items provided about adjustments that had to be made, correct?
It's in the budget amendment.
Right, and there were, how many departments went over?
And I'll be happy to go through the budget amendment.
Yeah, I think that we should do that. And also state where we are on reserve, if you would, please.
So attached to the formal budget ordinance is a spreadsheet that lists the summary of the funds that are being adjusted, and I'll just walk through those funds. In the general fund, there were several departments that were over budget, and that's listed on page 2 of the detail that's attached. And I'll just walk through those and just go through the columns. The adopted budget, you can see in the first column. The second column is the purchase orders from FY14 that were part of the reserved fund balance that are rolled over into FY15. The revenue offset, there's 2 departments that had collected revenue that would offset the expenditures in those budgets, and that was in the mayor's office for the MLK event, and then also in community reinvestment, and the offset for that is the Legacy Terrace, the way we have to account for the expenditures related to Legacy Terrace and the revenue that we receive from that.
Pam, is there any way this could be put up on the screen? It's just hard for citizens to follow as you rattle off numbers and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And Councilor Henderson, are you having trouble finding? Is it not on the ECAP or something? Oh, okay, good. I just want to make sure it was up.
I'll just walk over and speak from this.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Okay, so in the FY15 revenue offset, there are 2 departments that had revenue that they collected that offset expenditures in their office. The next column is the FY15 amendment, and those were items that were previously approved by council. Those were the police departments to use the public safety vacancy reserve, the sheriff's office to use the public safety vacancy reserve, and then also the litigation resolutions that were approved. the other way. Okay. So then on the next column is the pay plan, and the way we budget for the pay plan, and you'll see this throughout all the funds, is that we budget in
Okay, yes, Counselor Thomas.
I don't find this. You said it's on ACAP, but can
Yes.
you tell me where to go to get it?
When you go to the ordinance, if you scroll down to the ordinance, there's a PDF that's attached to the ordinance.
There's a budget amendment.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not that, however.
Under first reading, if you go
Okay,
to
can we get
budget
some technical help over here from
Mine's
the Mayor
a-
Pro Tem, please? This is a budget matter, so it is important.
FY15 final budget amendment PDF.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
when I click on that, it is not the same
This is
as this.
This is page
It is a
2.
different, it's a different chart.
This is page 2 of that PDF document, which is the detail for the general fund.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, and I think we've got the Mayor Pro Tem's rebooting, but nevertheless, Pam, if you just kind of walk us through it, so even if we don't have it in front of us, we understand. So you were talking about offsets a minute ago.
Right, and so in this column here that says pay plan, this would be distributing the 0.5% pay plan to all the departments for the 0.5% that was in January. So you'll see a negative in the miscellaneous and then a distribution of the pay plan to all the departments. The health insurance column required an additional $1.6 million for those budgeted positions in the general fund, of additional $806 over the $5,650 that was budgeted to account for the total amount of expenditures for health insurance for FY15. And the last column is final changes, and this is the column that accounts for departments that were over budget. And typically, the departments that came in under budget would cover those departments that are over budget. In this particular fiscal year, that is not the case. The net impact is $2.4 million. Those departments that were over budget are listed at the bottom. You'll see under final changes, departments over budget. That would be the city attorney's office, not for his operational expenses, but for litigation expenses. Information technology for the Microsoft licensing. Public Works was over budget, and you'll see in the column 19,907, and that was due to electricity for the government center. Boards and commissions, the tax assessor's office. You'll remember when we did the reassessment for the tax assessor's office, and the agreement in the contract was that the first payment would not be due until FY16, but we still have to account for the expenditures that took place in FY15. So this is a recorded expenditure, but the cash was not paid out until FY16.
What's the magnitude of that? Emma, if you can tell us the magnitude of
This
these.
was $232,000 was the net
But
impact.
that was just a recording.
That was a recording.
Situation, not a cash. Okay.
That was not a cash record. Fire and EMS, utilities and auto parts and supplies, but they did not use the public safety vacancy reserve, so this was accounted for by utilizing the public safety vacancy reserve for the fire department. Clerk of Superior Court, there was a state mandated salary increase for the clerk, and also postage and office equipment maintenance were the items that were over budget in the clerk's office.
And what was the amount, Pam?
The amount, and it's all, part of Superior Court is all together in Department 500, and it was around $20,000. Probate court was just over slightly, and that was due to the state mandated salary increase for the judge. The sheriff's office, a total of
And
$400,000.
Pam, what was that amount? It's hard for me to see here, and I know the citizens can't see.
$5,898 for probate court. In the sheriff's office, $448,000 over budget. That was from various different object codes within the sheriff's office. Recorder's court, and this was for contractual services for the court reporter that's required at Recorder's Court, and that was $4,709. And so the total offset for final changes was $2.4 million. And if you look at the bottom, which shows the revenue, we actually received $3.5 million more in revenue than what was budgeted. So that was utilized to cover these over budget offsets, as well as an additional $1.1 million out of fund balance in order to balance FY15 fiscal year. Where that leaves us for fund balance at the end of FY15 is let me bring that page over here, but it's 56.12 days is where we ended the fiscal year based on the requirements of FY15.
So we are below 60 days.
That's correct.
So Moody's has downgraded us, Standard & Poor's downgraded us?
We have not been contacted by S&P at this point.
Okay. And what's our bond rating at this time?
AA. It's still a AA, 2 with Moody's, and then a AA plus with Standard & Poor's. Going through the remainder of the funds, and I'll just go through these quickly. In the other loss fund, the changes were accounted for within the budget. We have purchase orders that were carried over from the prior year. We have carryover projects that were reserved from the prior year. We had the FY15 pay plan adjustment. You'll see that going out of 590 and distributed to the departments. The health insurance, which was covered within the fund itself, and then the final changes. I'll just go through the final changes listed at the bottom. The E911 required, out of the police department for E911, required an additional $26,000. The arson dog vehicle that was approved by council, that was $39,000. And then the security equipment at MCP was $118,000. I'll just put the summary back up. I don't think there's much to note in the other funds. The other funds that were adjusted was for the purchase order roll or for projects carried over from the prior year. There was one final change in the medical center fund of $430,000, and that was we budgeted $600,000 for the prisoner and indigent care over the contract price, and that came in just over $1 million. And so there's an additional $430,000 that was required in the medical center fund. The funds at the bottom are non-operating funds, and those are basically grant funds to account for any changes in revenue, additional revenue that's received, or in forfeiture funds where they collected more. Those are all balanced within the collections that's received on forfeiture funds. The Recorder's Court Technology Fee Fund, that was $396 was the amount that was spent. There was not a budget adopted for that. $396 was spent by the Recorder's Court judge. SPLOST proceeds, this is from the 1999 SPLOST, $29,337 is still being collected in that particular fund, so we have to account for that. And then the lease purchase program, which is where we're funding the tax assessor system, this accounts for the approval of council for that particular purpose. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, we have Councilor Davis.
Ms. Hawes, just wanted to back to the bond rating, and you know, just for clarification, the way I understand it, when you go into the 60-day mark and you have the bond rating agency comes in and gives you a different rating, consequently, it's my understanding that that will only affect the city's ability to borrow money, and in turn, it will have the ability to borrow money, but it will be at a much higher rate.
That's correct. The impact of a lower bond rating is a higher interest rate.
Okay. The second thing I wanted to ask you, in the past, we had some invoices due, payments due that came in at a later date, do you anticipate any payments due that are out there that we know about right now, or from an accounting standpoint, is everything pretty much squared up to where the numbers you presented today?
Yes, this is recording every expenditure that we're aware of through the end of October. So anything that came in that was dated prior to June 30th is recorded as an FY15 expenditure.
So right now, the council's not to anticipate any payments due that might surface at a later date?
Not anything that I'm aware of.
Okay,
and we try to correspond with all the departments. We send out a year-end memo that outlines everything they need to do to make sure that we have everything recorded and processed that relates to FY15.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Deputy City Manager Hodge. So everything that was over budget was approved by council before it was processed?
No, not necessarily. What typically happens is at the end of June 30th, actually on June 30th, it's infrequent that any department is actually over budget. What typically happens is as invoices come in or the final payroll is processed, which is after June 30th, that's what starts impacting departments to go over budget. We're required to record the expenditure in the correct period in which it was incurred. So that's typically how these overages occur, is departments or offices have already spent the funds, obligated the funds, and we're required to record them in the appropriate period.
But shouldn't there be some kind of notification to finance or to somebody when they go out and spend them? Because in your house, you got $10 in the bank.
Yeah.
You can't spend more than $10.
Well, there is. There's an ordinance or resolution on the books that requires permission ahead of time. So what ones would have been, I know there were several, and the Mayor Pro Tem's correct, that some of those were approved by council, such as the contract with the EMS and the contract with the tax assessors and things of that nature. But, and what other ones? And IT. You know, so they were approving those as they came up and making adjustments. But which ones were not approved by council ahead of time?
Public Works, Fire and EMS, Clerk of Superior Court. Probate Court, I guess council was notified that there was going to be a salary increase. I don't know that we specifically talked that this would cause the probate court to go over budget. So they were able to account for some of it. But that one council was notified of. The Sheriff and Recorder's Court.
Okay. All right. Let's see, we have Councilor Baker.
On the object code 590 miscellaneous, 684,000.
That relates to the allowance for bad debt. When we book the allowance, it's not necessarily a cash entry, but it's an expense for what we're doing is writing down lot loans, demolition loans, the amounts due from the Medical Center Fund, Bull Creek, and Oxbow. So as we book the expenditure for allowance for bad debt, it causes, because that's not a budgeted item.
So that's a direct hit to the fund balance?
That's correct. Okay. But it's not a direct hit to the unassigned fund balance because we're already accounting for that as non-spendable. So it's really an adjustment to the non-spendable, not to the unassigned.
So these aren't necessarily the numbers you've used in computing the 59 days of fund balance, or was it?
No, and I have a spreadsheet that I'll pass out to council and shows all the different categories of fund balance, and the 56 days represents the amount that's still available in the unassigned.
That's where I was getting confused. Thanks.
And we've talked about, Pam, before in instances of, it's not just the bond rating, but it's also the ability to float, because most of our money comes in subsequent to the first quarter of any fiscal year. And so we do have to use reserve funds to operate the city until property taxes come in and other such revenues come in. So what is that minimum operating level that allows us to make payroll and keep the lights on and function as the city we expect?
I can tell you that we were very close at the end of September in the general fund to meeting payroll based on this particular fund balance. So we are at the lowest that we can possibly be and meet payroll come September of next year.
So this 60 days thing is not just some artificial
No, absolutely
goal.
not. Absolutely not. When October comes around, we get our first substantial check from the tax commissioner's office. We also get a single payment for over $10 million for insurance premium. And that's what we wait for each year in October. And it's been this year